Hi everyone. Welcome back to my channel, Mandy's Not So Small Talk. I'm your host, Mandy. So today we're going to explore a deep and powerful topic, the true nature of strength. Society has shaped our perception of strength in a very narrow way. And today I want to break down that misconception and show how our greatest strength actually lies in vulnerability. I'll also walk you through a few tools and techniques to help you fully feel your emotions, integrate both the polarities within you, and uncover unconscious patterns that may be holding you back. So we'll touch on the work of thought leaders like David Hawkins and dive into the dynamics of black and white thinking, the splitting off of parts of ourselves, and the power of climbing the emotional ladder to free ourselves from shame. So let's get into it, huh? All right. First, let's address what society often teaches us about strength, not the muscle lifting kind, okay? So in many ways, strength has been defined as stoicism, which is the ability to push through without breaking, to always be in control. The message is often, don't show emotion, don't show weakness, keep it together. We've all internalized this to some degree, but let's think about this for a second. Is that really strength, or is it just a mask we wear to avoid looking weak? Brené Brown, she's a well-known thought leader and researcher. She argues that the true strength lies in vulnerability. In her groundbreaking work, she shows how our defense mechanisms, like numbing, shutting down, or overworking, are actually shields that we use to avoid feeling vulnerable. We wear these masks to hide from our deeper fears of inadequacy, of shame, of rejection. But ironically, the more that we suppress our vulnerability, the weaker we become internally because we actually cut ourselves off from genuine connection and healing. Consider this. You've probably seen people who appear incredibly strong on the outside, but they later break down, overwhelmed by their emotions. It's because they've been suppressing that vulnerability, refusing to acknowledge their emotions, and ultimately burning out. This is often why people who are hailed as strong in society, leaders, CEOs, or even military personnel, sometimes face severe burnout or emotional collapse. The truth is vulnerability is real strength because it requires us to confront and process our deepest feelings. When we allow ourselves to feel, we actually create space for healing. And if we keep suppressing or hiding behind a mask, we're avoiding the real work and we stay stuck and we stay the same. So that brings me to the second point. We may think we're feeling our emotions, but often we're only partially allowing ourselves to. We might feel anger for a moment, sadness for a minute, but then the mind kicks in with rationalizations. I shouldn't feel this way, or it's not that bad, or we spiritually bypass, and then we retreat back into our heads, or worse, into suppression. So then what's the solution? It's all about going deeper into the body and fully allowing the emotion to move through us. When you're feeling triggered or overwhelmed, try this. instead of getting lost in your thoughts, just pay attention to the physical sensations, the sensations in your body. What's happening? Are you tightening your chest? Is there a knot in your stomach? Is your throat closing up? These physical sensations are where the emotion is stored. And by tuning into them, you allow the feeling to be processed, not suppressed. It's a practice of surrendering to the feeling instead of resisting it. And this is where the healing begins. Now, let's take this a step further. There's a concept that I found deeply powerful: the dual nature of the universe, the idea that two truths can exist at once. So we often think in absolutes. This is right, this is wrong, or I'm good, they're bad, or the other way around. But this black and white thinking is actually a limitation. The universe operates in dualities: light and dark, masculine and feminine, joy and sorrow. And the same goes for us as individuals. So we have both strength and vulnerability, love and fear, confidence and insecurity, all of it existing within us. The key is to learn how to oscillate between these polarities. A practice that's been helpful for me is something called Focalizing, a guided meditation technique that helps you integrate these polarities. Focalizing encourages you to feel where these different truths are present within your body. Maybe your left side feels heavy, grounded. And then your right side, it feels light, restless, and you can kind of feel the imbalance, the contortion. And then by consciously holding space for both of these sensations, paying attention to both of them, and then oscillating between them, and then allowing them to come into balance, you allow the energy between them to move and to integrate together. So this is a powerful technique for breaking out of rigid thinking and embracing the complexity of just being human. So on that note, black and white thinking is another common trap we all fall into. When we split the world into good and bad and right and wrong, we're actually splitting parts of ourselves in this process. So think about it. Every time that you judge someone harshly or reject a part of yourself, you're projecting your own inner conflict onto the outside world. This is what psychologists I said that wrong. Psychologists call projection. So when we disown a part of ourselves and then we see it in others, so the more that we judge others, the more disconnected we become from our wholeness. For example, you might be overly critical of someone's laziness because deep down, you fear your own laziness. Or you might reject someone's vulnerability because you're uncomfortable with your own vulnerability. In both cases, you're splitting off parts of yourself. This kind of thinking keeps us stuck in cycles of judgment and shame. So, how do we break out of these patterns and stop projecting? It starts simply with just awareness, becoming conscious of these unconscious patterns and judgments. And this is where the work of David Hawkins comes in. His book, Power versus Force, Hawkins explains how shame is one of the lowest emotional vibrations. It keeps us stuck in a cycle because shame perpetrates itself. So when you feel ashamed, you're more likely to stay in shame, which leads to behaviors that end up reinforcing that feeling. But here's the good news. There's a ladder out of it. Hopkins describes the emotional scale from shame all the way up to enlightenment. Each step up to the ladder brings a higher emotional vibration. So the first step out of shame is to move into guilt or apathy, then up into courage and acceptance, and finally towards love and joy. So to climb this ladder, we need to bring awareness to where is it that we're stuck in. Now, we are human and we're going to experience those emotions, right, from time to time. But to be in that vibration link, it's about when recognizing that we're stuck on one of those ladders. And then understanding that that's the vibration that we're creating from. And we're creating from that stuck vibration, then we're staying in that vibration. So to climb this ladder, we need to bring awareness to where it is that we're stuck. Are we living in shame, afraid to be seen for who we are? Or are we able to move into a place of courage where we're willing to face our vulnerabilities head on? So one exercise that I found helpful is journaling. Take a few minutes to ask yourself, what am I ashamed of? What parts of myself do I try to hide? And when you name these things, you can bring them into the light, which is the first step to healing. And just to touch on, there was a toxic relationship that I experienced. And what I found is that person was able to have power over me, an unhealthy power over me, because I was stuck in my own shame. And this partner knew this and used the shame as a power play over me. And when I recognized that, and it's not easy, I realized that I needed to sit with and work with my own shame. And so a lot of that is just having acceptance for where you are, acceptance for the things that you've done, the things that you did, and having forgiveness and understanding that, the longer that I continue to feel shame of these things, of this predicament, of this environment scenario that I'm in, the longer that I remain in this same environment. And by me being okay with it, meaning forgiving myself, wasn't me actually staying in that. The only way for me to rise above that or to have a different experience from that, to get from that, was me actually being okay with where I am, with who I am in totality, with my mistakes, with my, you know, not being happy with maybe the job that I had, but knowing that that doesn't actually mean that there's something inherently wrong with me, and I'm not defective, and I'm not doomed to a certain life because I had made certain choices. So shame says that, hey, you know, you made these choices and now you have to stay in this. And society often teaches that. And a lot of parenting kind of teaches that as well. Like, you should be ashamed of yourself, if you heard that phrase. I've heard that phrase a lot. You should be ashamed of yourself. And I'm sure, and I know that I've used that. And reading this book and learning about the vibrations has made, and then reflecting back to my own life and my own situations, and seeing how it was very true and accurate that being in shame about my situation kept me in this situation. And the only way to get out of that situation is to have love and compassion and to honor myself for that experience. It doesn't mean that that's the best experience for me or for other people. However, there is, and most people will be like, you shouldn't. Actually, the people that love me have never shamed me. Oh, have never actually shamed me at all. But I found that I was the one shaming me, and I was attracting relationships that reflected that my own shame back to me. So yeah, that was a major, major lesson for me. So to wrap up, real strength is found in vulnerability, not in avoiding it. The misconception that strength means never showing weakness is actually a mask we wear to cover up deeper insecurities. So we may think that we're feeling our emotions fully, but true healing only happens when we go deeper into the body and allow the emotions to move through us. So understanding the duality of life, that two opposing truths can exist at once, helps us to integrate all parts of ourselves. We can oscillate between these polarities through techniques like focalizing, and we can uncover our unconscious patterns by becoming aware of our judgments and our projections. David Hawkins reminds us that, I love this. This was the first one that I read. And then I read Power versus Force. And then he has more books as well. So, but I had to, I definitely got triggered as I was reading those books. I had to stop for a while when I was like, oh man, my level of consciousness is here on this ladder. I was judging myself. And that's okay. Sometimes you need to stop. You need to pause. You need to let the information percolate, marinate, and integrate, and then go back to it when you're ready. So his work reminds us that shame is a powerful force that keeps us stuck. But we can climb the ladder to higher emotional states by becoming aware of where we are and taking small steps towards courage, acceptance, and love. So thank you for joining me in this deep dive today. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Press the bell button for all future notifications. Also, if you're looking at, I'm primarily working with women, but I will work with some men too. And you're wanting some healthy lifestyle changes in fitness, and you want some fitness coaching that incorporates meditation techniques, and it's not just your standard fitness coaching. If you're interested in finding out more with working with me, please just send me a message, and I'll get in contact with you, and we can have a one-on-one call. But it was lovely to share some time with you. Thank you for liking and giving some energy back. I would love if you put some comments if this resonated at all, or if you have any experiences that you want to share. I want to know in the comments, what's one thing that you're going to do to start embracing your vulnerability more? I'd love to hear that from you. So until next time, stay present and stay grounded, and be fit and have fun. Until the next one.